I was born into a Christian family. My family did all of the good Christian stuff. We would go to church every Sunday. We'd go to Wednesday nights. We would serve. My dad, he plays the bass, and he would play the bass at church. We did all the stereotypical Christian stuff. But then a few years ago, I started questioning my faith. I didn't know whether God was real or not. I was just wondering if he was actually real or if this was all just a big old hoax. All the arguments, they all made sense to me. How would there not be a God? It all made sense to me, but I just questioned him. And I kept on trying. I kept on trying. Talking to God, please just reveal yourself to me. And it just never happened. Until I went on a mission trip to New York. I had a friend that invited me to a mission trip to New York City. And little did I know, this would be the biggest decision of my entire life. Because I didn't even think I was going to go. But this changed it all for my life. So, I'm going to give you a quick warning about religion. It will change your life. You're not going to look at things the same anymore. Like, your entire perspective of reality is going to be different. You won't be the same anymore. You're going to act different. You're going to talk different. You're going to look different. You're going to dress different. You're going to be around different people. You're going to be in different social environments. You will not be the same person. People are going to look at you and be like, is that the same guy? It is not the same guy, because you will change. And there's multiple reasons why you're going to change. Number one, there's the morale system. Alright? Why, if we're all just pieces of meat, if we're just, pieces of DNA and, skin and all this stuff, alright? We're just a clump of cells. Then why does it matter what we do? That's a genuine question. Where do our morals come from? Oh, the government? But the government doesn't decide what is right and wrong. If you trust your entire moral system on the government, then you've got a problem. And that doesn't explain why we are born thinking certain things. Most people are born knowing that murder is not okay. Most people are born knowing that you shouldn't, use women for your sexual desires. So, religion, it kind of built society in a way. Like most societies, they were built on religion. America, if you're in America, America was born on religion. That's why America is the best country. It's because it was born in Christianity. Because they actually had a reason they orchestrated things they did. They didn't just put a bunch of laws together. No, they actually had a moral system. And it goes more than that, You look at the entire earth differently. You look at everything differently. Because an atheist, he just wakes up and he just goes about his day. He doesn't really know why. He just kind of does things, But a Christian or a Muslim or, whatever religion we want to talk about, you believe that there is a God. You believe that everything was orchestrated in a certain way for a reason. Nobody and nothing is here on accident, and you also start loving people in a different way. Because, let's say I don't believe in God, and I have a brother that has cancer. If I don't believe in God, it's going to be that much worse. Because if I'm an atheist, what do I believe is going to happen to that person when they die? Well, I probably believe that they're just going to turn into dust. They're going to turn into nothingness. Or maybe you believe that they reincarnate into a new human being. Or they turn into an animal. Point is, you're never going to see this person again. So, it's just a lot sadder, right? But as a religious person that believes in God, you probably believe in heaven and in hell. You believe that depending on what you do on earth will change what happens when you die. Whether you believe in, that if you do more good than bad, then you go to heaven. And if you do more bad than good, then you go to hell. Or, like the Christians, if you believe that if you, trust in Jesus, you go to heaven. And if you don't trust in Jesus, you go to hell. Point is, you love people differently, right? You try getting people to believe in the things that you do because you want to see them after death. And if you believe the teachings of, the prophets in your book, then these people are like, yeah, you need to love people. You need to treat them a certain way. They're not just pieces of meat walking around performing tasks. No, they're actual humans. They're here for a reason. They're not just clumps of cells. They're people you love, and you need to try to take them to heaven with you and not let them go to hell in eternal torment. And possibly the biggest, change of all is you're going to have a reason to live. Because if you're an atheist, if you really think about it, why are you here? Now that sounds, like a trick question or like I'm trying to get at you, but seriously, why are you here? What's even the point of being alive if you're just here for 80 years and then you'll just fail to exist? People that are religious, they believe that what you do on earth will change how you live in heaven or in hell. But if all we are is just pieces of meat that will fail to exist, then why are morals even a thing? Why does it matter? What does it matter what I do? If you only live for 80 years, then why not just do what you want? Do whatever, gives you the most pleasure. There's a reason that, all politicians say they're either Christian or Catholic or have some religion. Do they? Probably not. But the reason they say this is because if they don't, then why would they try to put in good policies? Because if you don't believe in anything, then why would you try to help your country? Because if you're only going to be here 80 years, then why does it matter? There's no reason to do good things. There's no reason not to do bad things. You should just do whatever benefits you. So if you become religious, you will have an actual reason to live. Now, if this all sounds interesting to you, then I'm going to go over the 2 ways that you can become, religious. The 2 ways you might get converted. Right? So the first one is evidence. So the thing about evidence is this kind of way to get converted is basically looking at the facts. Now, if you look for the facts for not too long, you're going to realize, okay, there has to be a God. There's so many reasons that there's so much factual evidence of there at least being a God. All right? Because, it doesn't make sense for 2 rocks to hit each other and then to make a singularity that expands and then it collapses and then expands and collapses and expands and collapses thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, billions of times until for some reason it changes. There's the famous, definition for insanity. To do the same thing over and over and over again and expect different results. If this same singularity just collapses and then expands, does it billions of times, nothing's going to change. And another question is, where do those rocks come from? Those asteroids. Oh, they come from nothing. Now, how does that make sense? Something can't come from nothing. There always has to be a reason, and then there's life from non-life. Nothing can't make life. There has to be life, and I was debating this one guy, and he was talking about this study that they found. There was some some place somewhere where they were able to take some like proteins and stuff and like make life. And I looked at the study, and it turns out that they were able to make certain parts of life, but they weren't actually able to make life. And the reason is because you can't. It is scientifically impossible to recreate life. And there's a reason for that. And let's pretend that you can recreate life, okay? You would still be, if you were still able to recreate life, it would still be scientists creating life, which means it would still be life creating life. And when has an explosion created something? If me and you right now, okay, I have a grenade, you have a grenade, we threw them at each other and they exploded. Would it create something? No, it would destroy stuff. We could do it 17 billion times. Nothing's gonna change. It's always gonna explode. If you look at a building, if I said, yeah, that building came from nowhere. Nobody built it. There were no materials. It just appeared there. You would look at me like I'm crazy. Because of course there's a builder. The earth is no different. The universe is no different. Alright? It's no different at all. There has to be a designer. And if you come to that conclusion, that means there has to be a God. And a lot of people say, where does that God come from? But the thing is, the whole point of God is he has always been. Okay, so if you come to the realization that there has to be a God, then you have to find out which God it is. And then the second way to, convert to a religion is an encounter. So an encounter is where, an encounter is basically where something happens which makes you believe in God. So maybe you go to a church service and the pastor is just amazing sermon, and you feel, let's say it's a Christian church, you feel like the Holy Spirit. Or let's say, you see a miracle by some like Islam dude or something, and you feel God, and you're like, there's no way that this could have happened without God. So an encounter is definitely easier than evidence, because an encounter, when you go with the evidence, you have to think, okay, which religion is correct, right? Because you might come to the conclusion that there is a God, but you don't know which one is real. There's thousands of different religions, so which God is real? And an encounter is easier, okay? Because if I go to a church service and I'm at a Christian church and I feel God, then it means Christianity is probably real. Sure, there's times that you may not know, but overall, usually an encounter is going to be easier. With evidence, you have to go over every religion and see which one makes more sense. And so you look at one religion, that one, it has its flaws. You're like, okay, no way that's true. Go over another one, until you come to the one that makes the most sense. So I personally, when I'm trying to, help people realize there's a God, I usually don't like to throw a bunch of evidence at them, because it doesn't seem as powerful to me. I want God to work on them. And evidence, the thing about evidence is you're just going to have to realize it's going to take time. It's going to take a long, stinking time. It's not going to happen overnight. If you're going over heck, it might take years. There's plenty of scientists that spent years trying to find out which God was real. The smartest people. So you need to acknowledge it will take a lot of time. And it's a journey that you're going to have to go on. You can't, your mom can't do it. Your dad can't do it. Your brother can't. Your friends. No, it's something that you have to do. It's a journey you have to go on. You can't just listen to the scientists, because the scientists are always like, Bill, not whatever. No, you have to go on your own journey. Nobody can go on this journey for you. And that will take time. And the thing is, this is the best thing you could possibly do in your free time. This is the best decision you're ever gonna make. There is no better decision. This is determining whether you're gonna turn to dust, or when you die, if you're gonna go to heaven or hell. Because the last thing you want is to believe in atheism, and then when you die, you go to God, and He's like, "Well, you didn't believe in me, and now you have to go to hell." Hell is eternal. You do not want to make that mistake. And me personally, I believe in Christianity. I was alluding to that story earlier. So how my entire life I was Christian, right? And then I stopped believing. When I went on this trip to New York, the entire week we were going up to random people, teaching them about Jesus, and I was like, wow, this is actually, pretty cool. Like, it'd be cool to actually do this. And then the last day, we were talking to one of the pastors that we were helping, and his wife was ill. And me and a couple buddies, we were talking to his wife, and she was asking, if you just said that prayer, that is beautiful, you are a Christian now. And I believe the one true way to heaven, And if so, that's beautiful. That's amazing. If you want to learn more about Christianity, alright, and you want to either get saved or you want to, go down on the evidence, then click the video that's on screen right now. Have a blessed one, alright?